The city of Orion Prime never slept. It was a place of tall glass towers, glowing lights, and endless noise. Humans and aliens walked side by side, but they rarely looked at each other. Everyone hurried to their own work, their own duty, their own little world. Ethan was one of them. A young human worker at the cargo station, he carried boxes all day, loading ships that left for distant stars. It was not a great job, but it gave him food, a bed, and a reason to wake up. And today, like every day, he rushed through the busy street, afraid of being late. The crowd pushed against him. Merchants shouted, neon signs flashed, and alien voices mixed with human ones. Ethan held his work badge tightly. If he lost this job, he knew he would have nothing. Then it happened. In front of him, only a few steps away, an old alien lady stumbled. Her thin arms shook, her silver skin pale under the light. She tried to walk, but her legs gave up, and she fell hard onto the cold metal ground. Her bag spilled, open. Strange fruits and tiny glowing stones rolled across the street. The people saw her, but nobody stopped. Some even stepped over her things as if they were trash. Ethan froze. His boss's voice rang in his mind. "Never be late, Ethan. Never stop, never waste time." He looked at the old alien lying there, trying weakly to push herself up. Her eyes trembled with shame, as if she already knew no one would help. For a moment, Ethan thought of walking away. He thought of his rent, his bills, his job, but his feet moved on their own. He bent down and held her hand. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. The alien woman looked at him with surprise. Her eyes were deep blue, almost glowing. No one had spoken to her with kindness for a long time. I fell," she whispered, her voice fragile like broken glass. Ethan helped her up slowly. The crowd stopped for a moment, watching with silence. A few humans whispered, "Why is he wasting his time? He'll be late, he's a fool." Some aliens turned their faces away, afraid of trouble, but Ethan did not care. He picked up her bag and carefully returned the glowing stones. She smiled weakly. "Thank you, young one," she said. Her hand trembled, but her grip was warm. For 1 second, Ethan felt as if the whole noisy world had gone quiet. Only her eyes mattered, filled with a secret sadness. Then a sharp voice cut the air like a knife. "Ethan!" He turned, and his boss stood there, a thick man with angry red skin and small metal implants across his neck. "You are late again, useless boy," the boss shouted. "You stop for trash while cargo waits? You're finished. Finished." The crowd turned their eyes away, pretending not to see. Ethan opened his mouth. "But sir," she fell. "I don't care," the boss roared. "You are fired. Out of my station. Never come back." The words hit harder than any punch. Ethan's chest felt hollow. He had lost everything in one breath, and all because he chose kindness. The old alien lady looked at him with wide eyes. She whispered, "I am sorry. This happened because of me." Ethan shook his head slowly. "No, it's not your fault." He forced a smile, though his heart was breaking. "I would do it again," he said, his voice quiet but steady. The boss turned away, spitting on the ground. The crowd broke apart, moving on with their lives. To them, this moment meant nothing, but to Ethan it was the end of his world. The old alien reached out and touched his arm gently. Her hand was soft, but her touch carried something strange. Ethan felt a warmth, deep and powerful, almost like energy flowing. Under his skin, her eyes locked onto his, glowing brighter for a moment. "You are different," she said, almost in a whisper. "Your path is greater than this street, greater than this job." Ethan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" he asked, but the old lady only smiled faintly. Her smile carried both sorrow and hope. She leaned closer and whispered, "Fate has seen you." Before Ethan could ask more, she turned and walked away slowly, disappearing into the crowd. Her steps looked weak, yet there was something purposeful in her movement. Ethan stood there, his badge in his pocket, his job lost, his future uncertain. But inside, her words echoed louder than the city's noise. "You are different. Fate has seen you." He looked down at his hands, the same hands that had lifted her up. They shook slightly, not from fear, but from something he could not name. The city lights glowed brighter, as if watching him. The air felt heavy with unseen eyes, and somewhere in the shadows a figure whispered into a device. He helped her. The human has been chosen. The night had only begun, and Ethan's story was no longer his own. Ethan walked through the night streets of Orion Prime with heavy steps. The city lights glowed above him, but inside he felt only darkness. He had lost his job, his only source of food and shelter. The echo of his boss's angry voice still rang in his mind. "You are finished." The words repeated again and again. He carried nothing but his small bag, a few credits, and his broken pride. The people around him laughed, traded goods, hurried to their homes. To them, he was just another man who failed. No one cared. No one even looked his way, except for one pair of eyes. In the shadows of the crowded street, the old alien lady stood, her frail figure almost invisible in the neon lights. She had followed him quietly, step after step. Ethan finally noticed her when he turned into an empty alley. She stood there, clutching her bag, her eyes glowing faintly blue. "You should not follow me," Ethan said softly. "I already caused enough trouble for both of us," but she shook her head slowly. "You did not cause trouble," she whispered. "You showed kindness, in a place where kindness is forgotten." Ethan sighed, his hands pressed against his tired face. "Kindness won't buy food, won't pay rent," he muttered. "I don't even know how I will survive tomorrow." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then the old alien stepped forward, her hand trembling as she reached inside her robe. She pulled out a small crystal pendant. It shimmered like frozen starlight, glowing softly in her palm. The crystal seemed alive, its surface shifting like liquid glass. She held it out to him, her voice calm but heavy with meaning. "This is for you," she said. "It does not belong to me anymore, it belongs to you." Ethan frowned, confused. "I don't want to take anything from you," he said. "You've already suffered enough today." But her eyes grew sharper, filled with strange power. "It is not a gift of kindness, it is a gift of fate," she replied. "You will need it soon." Ethan hesitated, then slowly reached out. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, warmth shot through his hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending a strange energy into his skin. Ethan gasped, dropping it to the ground. But the crystal did not fall. It hovered for a moment, then gently settled back in his palm. It was as if the crystal had chosen him. What is this?" Ethan whispered. The alien lady's eyes softened. "It is a key," she said, "but not to doors you know." Her voice carried both hope and sorrow. "Protect it, and it will protect you." Before Ethan could ask more, voices echoed at the end of the alley. Dark figures moved quickly, their footsteps sharp. Ethan turned, seeing 3 masked agents in long coats, their eyes hidden behind glowing visors, their movements cold and precise. One of them raised a device, pointing it straight at Ethan. "He has it." The agent's voice crackled through a communicator. "Do not let him escape." Ethan's heart raced. "Who are they?" he whispered, fear cutting into his chest. The old alien's face grew pale. "They are hunters," she said, her voice shaking. "They will not stop until they take the crystal." The agents moved closer, their hands reaching inside their coats. Ethan saw the glint of weapons, his breath quickened, his mind screamed to run, but his feet froze, trapped between fear and disbelief. The alien lady grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Go!" she hissed. "Run, Ethan, run!" The agents rushed forward, their steps echoing in the narrow alley. Ethan clutched the crystal tight, its glow spreading across his fingers. Suddenly, the pendant flared with light. A circle of energy burst open in the air. A glowing doorway of stars. The alley filled with strange wind pulling at his clothes. Ethan stumbled backward, terrified. "What is happening?" he shouted. But the old alien only whispered, "Your path begins now." One of the agents lunged forward, reaching for the pendant. The light exploded, forcing them back. Ethan turned and ran with all his strength. He raced through the back streets, the sound of footsteps behind him. Every corner felt dangerous, every shadow alive with hunters. He didn't know where to go, only that the crystal burned in his hand like fire. At last he collapsed inside an abandoned shelter, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. He pressed his back against the wall, trying to breathe. Outside, the footsteps grew distant, but he knew they would come again. In the silence of the shelter, the crystal began to glow softly. It floated above his hand, spinning gently. Then it projected a vision. Stars, endless stars, lines of light formed a map across the dark. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw planets, gates, and a path leading far away. The vision ended, the crystal dropping back into his palm. His hands shook, his mind racing. What? What are you trying to show me? He whispered. And in the silence from the shadows a voice answered. He has the key. It whispered into the dark. He cannot escape us. Ethan's eyes snapped wide. Someone was watching, someone close. He pressed the crystal against his chest, holding it like a lifeline. His life had ended when he helped a stranger, but something far greater had just begun. The night on Orion Prime was colder than usual. Ethan sat inside the broken shelter, his back pressed against the metal wall. The crystal pendant rested in his palm, glowing faintly like a sleeping star. He stared at it with wide eyes, his breath slow, his chest heavy. His life had been ordinary just hours ago, but now everything felt different. Outside, the city never stopped. Shadows moved between neon lights. Voices echoed through empty alleys. Ethan tried to calm his thoughts. Maybe I am dreaming, he whispered to himself. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and everything will be normal again. But deep inside, he knew nothing would be normal ever again. A faint sound broke the silence. Footsteps slow and careful, crunching against the wet ground. Ethan froze, holding the pendant tight. The crystal warmed in his hand, as if it also felt the danger. He listened. The footsteps grew louder, closer, heavier. Then a shadow appeared at the door of the shelter, a figure in a long coat, face hidden by a glowing mask, one of the hunters. The figure scanned the room slowly. Its visor flashed red as if it could see heat, see fear, see him. Ethan's heart raced. He pressed himself deeper into the shadows, praying the hunter would not notice. But the crystal betrayed him. It pulsed suddenly, a sharp flash of light glowing between his fingers. The hunter turned at once. There he is, the mechanical voice growled. Ethan bolted. He dashed out of the shelter, his legs burning as he ran into the maze of streets. Behind him, heavy footsteps thundered. The hunters were fast, faster than he expected. Their boots clanged against the ground like iron hammers. Stop, one shouted. But Ethan's fear gave him wings. He ran past merchants closing their stalls. He jumped over crates, pushed through the crowd. People cursed as he bumped into them, but he did not stop. The hunters followed without mercy, their glowing visors cutting through the smoke and neon lights. One raised a strange weapon. It fired, a bolt of blue energy that exploded against the wall near Ethan. Sparks rained down. The crowd screamed, scattering in all directions. Ethan turned into a narrow alley, his breath sharp. He clutched the pendant tighter. Suddenly the crystal pulsed again, projecting a faint path of light on the ground, a glowing line. Leading him deeper into the city he did not understand, but he followed. Every corner, every turn, the light guided him. The hunter stayed close, never losing his trail. His legs ached, his lungs burned, but he kept running. The pendant seemed alive, dragging him toward something unknown. Finally, he reached a dead end. A tall wall of steel, too high to climb. He spun around, trapped. The hunters entered the alley, weapons raised, their shadows long and sharp. One of them stepped forward. "Give us the pendant," the voice demanded, cold and final. "You cannot fight us, human." Ethan's hands shook, sweat dripping down his forehead. He wanted to throw the crystal away, to surrender. But the alien woman's words echoed in his mind. "Protect it and it will protect you." The hunters came closer. Ethan lifted the crystal high, his voice desperate. "I don't even know what this thing is," he shouted. The crystal blazed suddenly, brighter than ever before. A wave of energy burst from it, striking the hunters and throwing them backward. The ground cracked. The air shimmered with strange light. Ethan fell to his knees, covering his face from the brightness. When the light faded, the hunters were groaning on the ground, their masks cracked, their weapons sparking. Ethan stared, shocked at the power in his hands. Then he saw one of the hunters removing his mask slowly. Ethan gasped. The face beneath was not human. It was gray and sharp, with dark lines running across the skin. The alien's eyes glowed yellow as he hissed, "You do not understand what you carry, human, but you will soon." Before Ethan could react, more hunters appeared at the far end of the alley. Too many, far too many. He turned and pressed the crystal against his chest, praying for another miracle. The pendant answered. A sudden circle of light opened in the air, swirling with stars. A portal glowing like a wound in space itself. Ethan hesitated, fear and wonder fighting inside him. The hunters shouted, rushing forward with weapons raised. Ethan had no choice. He jumped. The portal swallowed him whole, the world twisting into chaos. He tumbled through weightless darkness, stars spinning around him. The crystal guided his fall, pulling him like gravity toward a distant light. He landed hard on the floor of another place, airless, silent, strange. Ethan groaned, trying to stand. He looked around and froze. He was no longer in Orion Prime. He was inside ruins, massive stone structures glowing with alien symbols. The place felt ancient, older than human memory. The pendant pulsed gently, as if it had finally brought him home. But in the shadows of the ruins, something stirred. Not human, not hunter. Something else. And once again, Ethan realized he was not safe. His chase had only begun. Ethan lay on the cold stone floor, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The ruins around him glowed faintly with alien symbols, each carved into ancient walls that stretched high above his head. The silence was deep, broken only by his own heartbeat. He touched the crystal pendant that still rested in his palm, its light soft now, as if it had gone to sleep. "What are you?" he whispered, his voice shaking. The air was strange here, thin but breathable, carrying a faint metallic taste. Shadows shifted across the ruins as if the stones themselves were alive. Ethan stood slowly, brushing dust from his clothes. He looked around, but the portal he had fallen through was gone, leaving only solid air. No way back, no way to escape. A low sound echoed through the ruins. Ethan froze, listening. It was not the footsteps of hunters this time, but something slower, older, like the deep breathing of the ruins themselves. He gripped the crystal tight, his hand trembling. The sound grew louder, until from the shadows a familiar figure appeared. It was the old alien lady. Her silver skin shimmered under the dim glow, her eyes glowing blue as before. Ethan stepped back in shock. How are you here?" he asked. She smiled faintly, her face calm but unreadable. "I followed," she said simply. "The crystal brought you here, and it brought me too." Ethan's chest tightened. "What is this place?" he asked. The old alien's eyes traveled across the walls, sadness deep in her gaze. "This was once the heart of my people," she whispered. "A city of wisdom, of peace, of power." She reached out and touched the glowing symbols on the wall. "But now it is only bones, only dust." Ethan listened, confused but drawn to her words. "What does this pendant have to do with me?" he asked, holding it out. "I don't even understand why it chose me." The old alien turned back to him, her expression grave. "Because you are different," she said. "You act not for gain, not for glory, but for kindness." She stepped closer, her voice low. "This crystal is not only a pendant, it is a key, a map, and a weapon." Ethan swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the glowing shard. "But why me?" "I am nobody," he said, his voice breaking. "I was just a worker. I lost my job for helping someone." The alien lady shook her head gently. "You lost a job, but you gained your true path," she said. "Fate does not choose kings or generals. Fate chooses hearts." The words sank into him, heavy as stone. Ethan felt both fear and responsibility pressing on his shoulders. He looked again at the pendant, its light reflecting in his eyes. "What do the hunters want with it?" he asked. Her eyes darkened, her voice dropping. "They want to unlock what lies beyond. Long ago, my people hid a great power. It was too dangerous to control, So we sealed it with the crystal, but only one who carries true intent can awaken it. Ethan's mind spun. So they want me. Because the crystal chose me, he whispered. The alien nodded slowly. They will not stop until they have you, and through you, the crystal. Before Ethan could reply, a sudden crack split the silence. The ground shook, dust falling from the high walls. The ruins trembled as if the stones were waking from a long sleep. A symbol on the wall lit up brighter than the rest, pulsing like a heartbeat. The pendant answered, glowing fiercely in Ethan's palm. The alien lady's eyes widened. "It has begun," she whispered. Ethan staggered back, the light from the pendant burning his hand. The wall shifted, opening slowly to reveal a hidden passage. Beyond it lay darkness, endless and deep. Ethan's fear mixed with curiosity. "What is inside?" he asked, his voice small. The alien's answer was soft but sharp. "The truth," she said, "and the danger." They stepped forward cautiously. The passage stretched far, filled with carvings of humans and aliens standing side by side. Ethan touched one of the carvings, shocked. These are humans," he whispered. "But this city is older than Earth's first ships." The alien nodded, her expression grave. "My people knew of your kind long before your world joined the stars." She pointed to the carvings. "Humans and my people once walked together, but something happened. Something that broke us apart. The crystal is the last memory of that bond." Ethan's mind raced. If what she said was true, then history itself was a lie. Humans were not newcomers, not strangers to the galaxy. They were part of something ancient, something hidden. The weight of it made his chest tighten. As they reached the end of the passage, a chamber opened before them. Inside stood a great stone altar, and above it a glowing sphere floated. The pendant in Ethan's hand flared, resonating with the sphere. The old alien gasped, her voice trembling. "It responds to you. It has accepted you fully." Ethan stared at the sphere, light dancing across his face. He felt the crystal pulling toward it like two hearts beating as one. He took a step forward, but before he could touch the altar, a cold voice echoed from behind. "Step away, human." Ethan spun around, his heart dropping. The hunters had followed, their visors glowing, weapons raised. The leader stepped forward, his mask cracked, his alien face visible. "You carry what belongs to us," he hissed. "Give it, or die where you stand." Ethan clutched the pendant tight. His fear was real, but so was his resolve. He looked at the alien lady beside him, then back at the hunters. "I won't give it," he said, his voice firm despite the shaking in his hands. The chamber filled with silence. Then the hunters raised their weapons, and Ethan realized this fight was only the beginning. The chamber shook with the sound of energy, weapons powering up. Ethan stood frozen before the glowing altar, the crystal burning hot in his hand. The hunters spread out, their visors glowing, their weapons aimed straight at him. The old alien lady stepped closer to Ethan, her eyes sharp, her voice low. "Do not let go of the crystal, no matter what happens." Ethan's throat was dry, fear crawling through his body. He was no soldier, no fighter, just a human who once carried cargo. But here he was, standing between ancient secrets and merciless hunters. One of the hunters growled, "Last chance, human, give us the key." Ethan gripped the crystal tighter, his knuckles white. "I won't," he said, his voice trembling but steady. The hunters fired, blue bolts of energy cutting through the chamber. Ethan and the alien lady dove behind the stone altar as explosions lit the walls. Dust rained from above, the ancient carvings cracking under the assault. The crystal pulsed wildly in Ethan's hand. Suddenly, a burst of light shot out, creating a shield around him and the alien lady. The bolts struck the shield and dissolved, leaving sparks in the air. The hunters staggered back, confused and angry. "What is this power?" one hissed. The alien lady pulled Ethan's arm. "We cannot stay," she urged. She led him through a side passage, the crystal guiding their steps. The ruins trembled as more energy blasts followed them, but the crystal seemed to know the way, projecting glowing lines on the ground like a map. They ran until the stone walls opened into the outside night. The sky above was different now, filled with strange constellations. Ethan realized with shock that this planet was not Orion Prime. It was somewhere far away, forgotten, dangerous. How do we get out of here? Ethan asked, his voice breaking. The alien lady's eyes glimmered with sorrow. We need a ship, she said, but not just any ship. Together they moved quickly through rocky cliffs and broken towers. In the distance, lights flickered. Smugglers' docks hidden beneath the ruins. Rusty ships patched together with stolen parts waited in silence. The smell of fuel and metal filled the air. Ethan hesitated. These people won't help us, he whispered. They don't help anyone. But themselves, the alien lady looked at him firmly. Then we will not ask, we will take what we must. They crept into the docks, shadows hiding their forms. Smugglers moved between ships, exchanging goods and credits. Ethan's eyes caught a small freighter, half broken but ready to fly. That one, the alien lady pointed. But as they approached, a voice called out, "Stop right there." A tall smuggler stepped forward, his cybernetic arm glowing with red lines. Two others flanked him, weapons raised. "This is my ship," he snarled. "You want it? You pay, or you bleed." Ethan raised his hands quickly. "We don't want trouble," he said, his voice shaking, but the alien lady stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. "You will let us pass," she said softly. The smugglers laughed, but then their faces shifted, confusion clouding their eyes. The lady's voice grew sharper. "You will forget we were ever here." The smugglers blinked, dazed, lowering their weapons slowly. They stepped aside without another word. Ethan's jaw dropped. How did you do that?" he asked. The alien lady sighed. "Old tricks from an old time." They boarded the freighter, the doors hissing shut. Ethan slid into the pilot's seat, his hands trembling over the controls. "I've never flown anything like this," he muttered. The alien lady placed her hand on the console. "Then let the crystal guide you," she said. The pendant pulsed, connecting to the ship's systems. Lights flickered to life, engines roared, and the freighter shook with power. The hunters arrived at the docks just as the ship lifted off. They fired their weapons, bolts streaking across the night sky. The freighter rattled as sparks flew from the hull. Ethan gritted his teeth, pulling the controls. The ship struggled upward, fighting gravity. Come on," he whispered. With a final burst, the freighter shot into the dark sky, leaving the hunters behind. Stars filled the view as they broke through the planet's atmosphere. Ethan sat back, breathless, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had never been this far from safety, never been hunted across worlds. The alien lady watched him, her eyes soft. "You did well," she said gently. Ethan shook his head. "I don't even know where we're going," he said. The crystal answered, glowing brighter, projecting a map across the ship's screen. Lines of light stretched across the galaxy, connecting worlds like threads. At the center of the map, one planet glowed brighter than the rest. The alien lady's face grew grave. "That world," she whispered, "is forbidden." Ethan stared at it, his heart heavy. "And that's where the crystal wants us to go," he said quietly. The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, and if the crystal has chosen you, then that planet is where your true path begins." Ethan leaned back in the seat, closing his eyes for a moment. The weight of it all pressed against him. The hunters, the alien ruins, the crystal's strange power. He wanted to be back in Orion Prime, carrying boxes, living a simple life. But deep inside, he knew there was no going back. The universe had chosen him, and fate was pushing him toward the unknown. Outside, the freighter cut through the stars, but in the distance, unseen by Ethan, hunter ships followed. Their visors glowed cold, their engines silent, and one voice echoed across the comms, "We will catch him, and the key will be ours." The freighter drifted through endless space, stars glittering outside the viewport like cold fire. Ethan sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the glowing map the crystal had projected. The path pointed straight toward the forbidden planet, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. His hands trembled slightly on the controls, but his eyes stayed locked on the destination. Behind him, The old alien lady sat silently, her gaze fixed on the stars, her face unreadable. For hours they traveled without words. Ethan's mind spun with questions he could not answer. Why had the crystal chosen him? A nobody. A worker, with no family, no power, no name. Why did hunters cross worlds for something he barely understood? And why, even now, did the crystal's glow feel both comforting and heavy, like a chain he could not escape? Finally, the silence broke. "You are thinking too much," the alien lady said softly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried shadows. Ethan gave a tired laugh. "How can I not? Everything I knew is gone. My job, my home, my life. And now this thing is dragging me toward danger I can't even see." The lady leaned forward, her tone sharper now. "Danger was always there, Ethan. You just lived blind to it. The galaxy hides truths, and you have been forced to see them." Before Ethan could answer, the freighter shook violently. Red lights flashed across the console. Alarms screamed. Ethan grabbed the controls, his heart racing. "What's happening?" he shouted. The alien lady's eyes narrowed. "They found us." Hunter ships emerged from the shadows of space, their sleek black hulls glinting with cruel light. Engines burned blue as they closed in quickly. Surrounding the freighter, Ethan pulled. Hard at the controls, the ship swerving, energy bolts flashing past the windows. The crystal glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his racing heartbeat. "Hold on," he cried, pushing the engines to their limit. The freighter darted between debris fields, broken ships from old battles drifting silently. Hunters fired relentlessly, blasts tearing chunks from the wreckage around them. Ethan dodged left, then right. Every move desperate, every second borrowed. The alien lady placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice calm despite the chaos. "The crystal is guiding you. Trust it, let it show the way." And it did. Lines of light appeared before him, weaving a safe path through the deadly field. Ethan followed, his hands steady despite the storm of fire. At last, the freighter broke free, engines roaring as the hunters fell behind. But Ethan's relief died when he saw it. The forbidden planet, a giant world covered in black storms and golden light breaking through in cracks. It looked alive, as if the planet itself was breathing. The crystal pulsed harder, almost pulling Ethan forward. The alien lady whispered, "We are here." They descended through violent storms, lightning ripping across the sky. The freighter rattled like it would break apart, but the crystal shielded them with a glowing barrier cutting through the chaos. Finally, they landed on the surface, a barren wasteland filled with ruins stretching to the horizon. Ethan stepped out, the air thick but breathable. Every stone whispered of something ancient, something waiting. Inside the ruins, they found a massive chamber with carvings on every wall, humans and aliens standing together, holding the same crystal Ethan now carried. He reached out, his fingers brushing the carvings. "This is us," he whispered. The alien lady's voice trembled. "Yes, long ago, before lies covered the truth." At the center of the chamber stood another altar, this one glowing faintly. The crystal in Ethan's hand vibrated, pulling toward it. Ethan hesitated, his chest tight. "What happens if I place it there?" he asked. The alien lady's expression darkened. "Then the past will awaken, and the future will be decided." Ethan raised the crystal slowly, sweat dripping down his forehead, but before he could place it, footsteps echoed behind him. He spun around, his heart dropping. A figure stepped from the shadows. Not a hunter, but one of the smugglers from the dock. The tall man with the cybernetic arm, his eyes burning with greed. "I knew you would come here," he sneered. "You have no idea what you're holding, but I do." Ethan's stomach twisted. You followed us," he said. The smuggler laughed harshly. "Of course, fools, you think you could walk into my dock and take my ship without me noticing? The crystal is worth more than 10 galaxies. With it I will rule and you will be nothing." He raised his arm, the cybernetics glowing red as a weapon unfolded. Ethan stepped back, clutching the crystal to his chest. "You don't understand, this isn't just power," Ethan said desperately. But the smuggler only grinned. "Power is all that matters." The alien lady moved in front of Ethan, her eyes blazing. "You cannot control it. It will destroy you," she warned, but the smuggler's grin widened. "Then let it destroy as long as it bows first." He lunged forward, his arm striking, energy crackling through the chamber. Ethan stumbled, falling against the altar, the crystal flaring with light. A shockwave burst outward, throwing all three across the room. The smuggler landed hard but scrambled to his feet, reaching for the crystal. For a moment, Ethan's vision blurred, but he saw it clearly. The crystal did not move toward the smuggler. It floated into the air, glowing brighter than ever before. Then, with a flash, it flew straight back into Ethan's hand. The smuggler's face twisted in rage. "No, it should be mine," he roared, but the crystal pulsed warmly against Ethan's palm. It had chosen, and its choice was final. The alien lady smiled weakly, her voice soft. "It has bonded to you completely now," she whispered. "You are the one it belongs to." Ethan stared at the furious smuggler, then at the glowing crystal in his hand. He realized in that moment that betrayal, greed, and danger would follow him everywhere. But so would the truth, and the truth was now his to protect. The crystal burned with radiant light in Ethan's palm. The chamber trembled as if the planet itself was awakening. The smuggler staggered back, shielding his eyes from the glow, his face twisted with greed and rage. The old alien lady stood weak but unshaken, her eyes fixed on Ethan. "It has chosen you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "There is no turning back now." Ethan's heart pounded. The crystal's warmth spread through his veins, filling him with strength but also with fear. He looked at the smuggler, who raised his cybernetic arm again, sparks crackling with deadly energy. "You think this makes you special?" the smuggler roared. "No crystal will save you from me." Before Ethan could move, the ground shook violently. The altar behind him split open, light pouring out. From the cracks in the walls, ancient machines stirred, long-forgotten guardians. Waking from their slumber, their stone bodies glowed with golden lines, their eyes burning with blue fire. They turned their heads slowly, scanning the chamber. The smuggler froze, his confidence fading. What are those things?" he whispered. The alien lady's voice was low, filled with awe. "The keepers," she said. "They guard the truth. They test the worthy." The guardians stepped forward, each one towering like giants. Their heavy feet shook the chamber with every step. One lowered its massive hand toward Ethan. The crystal pulsed in answer, its light weaving into the guardian's lines. Ethan gasped as visions filled his mind. He saw humans and aliens united, building together, sharing knowledge, protecting each other. Then he saw fire, betrayal, greed, the bond broken, the crystal hidden, and now him, standing here as the one chosen to finish what was lost. Ethan fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "I can't do this," he whispered. "I'm not a hero. I'm just me." The alien lady stepped closer, her voice steady. "Heroes are not born, Ethan. They are made when they choose to stand." The smuggler screamed with fury, firing a blast from his cybernetic arm. The energy bolt struck one of the guardians, but the giant barely flinched. Instead, it turned and struck back, sending the smuggler crashing into the wall. He coughed, blood on his lips, but still crawled forward, desperate. "I will have it," he spat. "I will take it from your corpse." Ethan stood shakily, holding the crystal high. Its light flared, filling the chamber with brilliance. The hunters who had followed, now entering through the ruins, stopped in their tracks. Their visors flickered, their weapons trembling in their hands. The crystal's glow grew stronger, spreading like a wave. And suddenly the hunters' disguises cracked, their true alien forms revealed. The chamber filled with gasps and whispers, fear and awe. The alien lady smiled faintly, her voice soft. "The crystal forces truth. It burns away lies, masks, and greed." Ethan's eyes widened as he realized the power he held was not a weapon to destroy. It was a force to reveal, to heal, to unite. The hunters dropped their weapons, their voices uncertain. What have we done?" one muttered. The smuggler screamed again, trying to lunge forward, but the guardians raised their massive arms, surrounding Ethan, protecting him. The crystal pulsed one final time, sending a beam of light into the sky through the storms above. The beam pierced into space, a signal, a call, and across the galaxy something answered. Ethan staggered, the energy draining him. He looked at the alien lady, his voice weak. Why me? Why did it have to be me? She placed a trembling hand on his shoulder, her eyes kind. Because you chose compassion when others chose silence, she said. You bent down when the world walked away. Fate saw that. And so did I. The crystal dimmed, settling into his palm once more. The guardians bowed their heads and stepped back into stillness, returning to silence. The hunters retreated, shaken, their disguises gone, their purpose shattered. The smuggler lay broken, his greed his final chain. And Ethan, once a simple worker, stood taller than he ever had. Outside, the storms of the forbidden planet began to calm. Golden light broke through the dark clouds, shining. Across the ruins the air felt lighter, the weight of centuries lifting. Ethan walked out of the chamber slowly, the alien lady beside him. He looked at the horizon, endless and unknown. His life on Orion Prime was gone, but something greater waited. The alien lady smiled faintly, her voice filled with both sadness and hope. You were fired for kindness, Ethan, cast aside for helping a stranger, but destiny gave you something greater. You are no longer just one. Man, you are the bridge between worlds. Ethan looked at the crystal one last time, then at the stars above. His fear was still there, but so was courage. He did not know what would come next, but he knew one thing with certainty. His story was no longer about survival. It was about change, unity, and fate's bigger plan, and somewhere far away across the stars, others were already listening the sign. Galaxy had begun to turn, and it had started with a simple act of kindness.